In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the basic equation that dictates how happy we are in life. And we're going to launch straight in. I wish I could give credit to whoever came up with this, but I've seen this in so many different places. I don't know who came up with it to begin with. The basic equation is this, the one I've seen that I've adapted slightly, is that happiness is equal to our reality minus our expectations. I've changed it slightly because I don't think happiness is a good judge, is a good way to base how good our life is. Happiness is a temporary state. It's an emotion. It's like anything else. Sadness, depression, excitement. We are sometimes happy, we're sometimes not. I think a better way to judge our life is contentment and peace, because contentment and peace can be like a baseline that we aim for, that makes us feel better most of the time. And we can be happy sometimes and we can be sad sometimes, and that's okay. But generally, we're content. Use whatever language suits you best, whichever way you want to look at this. So the way I'd look at it is happiness or contentment is equal to reality minus expectations. What does that mean? Let me give you some examples so that you can see how it works. You may have met people in life, or you may have come across people, most of us have, who have very basic lives. They don't have very much. They don't have much money. They don't have many material possessions, but they're happy, they're content, they're peaceful. And that's because if you look at the equation, let's say the happiness scale or the contentment scale in reality is on a score of 0 to 100. Their reality score might be 5 out of 100. If 100 is the best life could be, they live a life of about 5. So that's the reality. But the kicker is they don't have any expectations. They don't expect life to be any different. They don't want more. They don't need more money. They don't want a bigger house. They don't want a different relationship. They don't want a better job. So their expectation score is 0, which means their happiness or contentment score is reality of 5 minus expectations of 0. So their happiness or contentment score is 5. And it's 5 out of 100, but it's a positive 5. Now think of everybody else, which is likely to be you to a certain degree if you're watching a video like this. It's definitely true of most high achieving people and most successful people, is that they'll have a reality that may even be 80, 90 on the scale of 0 to 100. They might have a great reality. This was definitely me back in the 10 years ago before I started doing all this work. But their expectation score often goes way off the charts. It goes way beyond 100. Their expectation score might be 1,000, 10,000. Let's keep the maths easy because I haven't written this down. Let's say their reality score is 80, but their expectation score is 100. That gives them a happiness or contentment score of reality of 80 minus expectations of 100, which gives them a score of minus 20. So despite on the surface it looking like their life is better than the person who has less, their happiness or contentment score is lower. Why? Because their expectations are too high. And that gives them a negative score. They expect more of life than their reality is, which means despite it looking like their life is great on the surface, they're still unhappy, depressed, miserable, sometimes suicidal, which is where I was 10 years ago. If that resonates with you, this episode is all about how we can fix that. And how we fix it, there are 3 ways. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. We can lower our expectations, we can improve our reality, or we can do both. The first step in doing this is to observe our reality and be completely honest with ourselves about how happy or content we are with the various aspects of it. So that means literally sitting down with a pen and paper and going through each part of your life. Look at your job, look at your relationship, look at your kids if you have them, look at your money, look at your health. How happy are you with it? Give it a score. What is your reality? If you score it, maybe use a bigger scale to make it more malleable. 0 to 1,000, go through each thing and score where your reality is. Then step 2 is being completely honest with yourself about what your expectations are in each different part of your life. So go through each one, same thing, do 2 columns. One is the reality score and one is your expectation score. and be honest. An easy way to see if you're kidding yourself about any of this, to see where your expectations outweigh your reality, is to ask yourself where you're unhappy, where you're not satisfied in any way, or you're unfulfilled with some part of your life. So, for example, in a very basic way, if you're not happy with someone's behavior in your life, whoever it is, your partner, family member, kids, boss, colleagues, friends, it's because your expectations of their behavior outweigh the reality. Your expectation score is higher than the reality score. Then the next thing to do with every part of this is to ask yourself and be honest with yourself about what it would take to improve the reality score, to make it match or exceed your expectations. And then ask yourself whether you're prepared to do the work it takes to increase that reality score. So, as an example, if you want to be fit and healthy and you're currently not, you probably need to start exercising and eating a better diet. It's simple, but it's not easy. One of my favorite lines in all of this stuff. Where people are miserable in life, in my experience, including me in the past, even with some things that are in my life now, is where they expect more from life than they're prepared to put in. So on the fitness example, we expect to be fit and healthy while eating a shit diet and not exercising. Now, the kicker of this is most people would expect that the way you get happy or content or peaceful if you're unfit is to become fitter. But that's not actually true. Think about the equation. We can become happier by changing our expectations. So I've helped people to become more peaceful and content by just accepting that they like eating shit food and lying on the couch watching Netflix more than they want to go to the gym and change their diet. So instead of changing their reality, which was beyond what they wanted to do, they just learned to accept their reality and lowered their expectations. They literally embraced it. They said, do you know what? I'm going to take radical responsibility for my life, which is one of the things I talk about all the time. And I'm going to accept that I just choose to eat loads of cakes and sit on the couch. And therefore, I'm going to be fat and unhealthy and lethargic. And that's just the way it is. And that's okay, because that's what I choose to do. Doing the opposite of that is because we're not emotionally evolved away from the victim character that we all have in childhood. Think about all little kids. Every little kid you ever meet, including us when we were little, think that everything is unfair, which is what we're doing as grown-ups when we complain about life not being what we want it to be. And in some ways, it's not our fault, right? No one taught us this growing up. If we have problems, it's because we haven't emotionally matured. I'm speaking from painful personal experience here. I'm 45 years old as I'm recording this episode. And all of the suffering in my life came from not being emotionally grown and matured and suffering because of this equation at a very basic level. And the harsh truth is that being an emotionally mature adult means accepting that there's a price to pay for every choice we make. So if we choose to eat loads of cakes and do no exercise, the price we pay is being fat and unfit, being lethargic, not feeling great about ourselves. But if we choose to work out and have a clean diet, the price we pay is having to put more effort in, having to make more time, not eat as many treats as we might like, not sit around watching as much stuff on TV as we might like. That's the price we pay. And the same applies to everything in life. So the trick is to assess your reality versus your expectations and be totally honest with yourself about whether you're prepared to do the work necessary to improve your reality or whether you just need to lower your expectations. It's a simple process of taking radical responsibility for the choices you make and not acting as though someone is forcing you to make those choices. Everything in your life as a grown-up is a choice, whether you think it is or you think it's not. The world is happening for you, not to you. You are not a victim. You can make whatever different choices you want in life if you want to change your life. But the last point to note on that is that there are obviously some parts of life that we don't have control over the reality, like other people's behavior. So in those situations, if we're suffering, we have to lower what we expect of people. I have been through this countless times in my life. And the reality is you cannot change the other person's behavior. The best thing you can do is let go of it. If you're unhappy with someone else's behavior, or you're unhappy with any part of life that you can't control, what you need to do is change your expectations. The other example that pops into my head is the weather. The number of people, especially in where I'm from in Britain, who are miserable because of the weather. And it's because they expect it to be better than it is. I used to have this with my dad all the time before he passed away. We live in Liverpool in the northwest of England. The weather is often rainy and cold, especially in the winter. It's always like that. Yet we would be stood in the middle of November or December and he would be miserable because of the weather. And I would say to him, what did you expect? It's always like this in the UK in the winter. If you don't want it to be like this, take radical responsibility and make a different choice. Change your reality, move and live in a different place. But if you stay living here and expect the weather to be better than it is, your happiness score is always going to be negative because your expectation is going to outweigh the reality. The same with other people. If you expect more of people than they are able to give in reality, you are always going to be unhappy. So the only thing you can do with that side of things is to lower expectations and then control the things we can control. So with the weather example, make a choice. Say you want to leave the country, but take radical responsibility for your choice. Know that if you choose to stay living in a place where it's cold and wet, then that's what you've chosen to do. So just accept the fact that when it's cold and wet, you've chosen to live somewhere like that. Lower your expectations to be less than what the reality score is, and you'll be happier and more content. Same with spending time with people. You can lower your expectations of their behavior, and the thing you can control is how much time you spend with them, how you behave around them, what you do around their behavior. You can control what you do. You can't control what they do. Anything on your list that is out of your control, think about lowering your expectations of that thing and think about the things you could control, like moving to a different place, spending less time with someone that would improve your reality. And that's it. It's a very basic, simple concept, but if you embrace it, it will transform your life. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, if you've got any feedback, any thoughts on what I've just shared. I'll see you on the next episode.